Secret Service Sam here, and Chud the Builder is facing up to 61 years in prison. Hallelujah. The ancestors have spoken. As you guys know, in Clarksville, Tennessee, he provoked a man. He even tweeted about it, that he was going to go out and provoke somebody until they do something so he can pull his piece. Now, the problem is there is stand your ground law in Tennessee, but it does not allow stand your ground to people who provoke the fight. And he clearly did. He actually tweeted about it. He was so arrogant and so high on his white privilege that he thought he could go around calling black people the N-words, saying all this chimping out stuff, and that he would be okay to defend himself. But oh my God, I cannot wait. He's probably already, somebody's gone balls deep on him by now, I'd imagine, or at least we can only hope. But this is not going to bode well for him. When he gets in front of that judge, when they review his tweets, when they see all of his past videos of all of his racism on display, he live streamed it all. I mean, it's not very smart. I mean, he's going to get what George Zimmerman should have gotten, if you know what I mean. This is for the souls of Travion, Sandra Bland, I mean, Sonia Massey, you name it, Philandro Castillo. This is for everybody, and this should be a lesson to all you racists that justice will come for you. And Chud the Builder is going to be Chud the Chugger.
Funny because I had just been talking to friends about something similar because, long story short, I'm in a mobile game and we basically have an alliance and like we're into it socially and whatnot. And we just left an alliance run by somebody that had really bad emotional problems. She was always like complaining in the chat that nobody cared about her and she should just off herself and all sorts of crazy stuff. And so we left and now she's harassing us. And we had this conversation about why is somebody wasting so much time on a video game to basically cause drama and all sorts of stuff. And then also the trolls, like you encounter trolls. And we kind of had been talking about how a lot of these people just they probably have a personality disorder. They probably have some sort of mental illness that makes them either highly reactive because they have no control over their emotions and they've just been exposed to really disturbing or cruel things about other people. And so that combination, and also there usually is a level of like entitlement where they just feel like it's their duty to harass people, like they get a thrill out of it potentially, and it's their way of like feeling a sense of power in themselves. And to me, that's kind of it makes me, that this video makes me think of that because it feels related. Like it feels like the same type of behavior, except instead of him being an online troll, he's an in-person, I'm going to comment to you on the street type of person. And I mean, truthfully, he probably does this online too. But yeah, I think sadly, there's a lot more people like this than we think. It's just not many of them have made the news yet. But it's definitely a personality trait that we'll probably see more often with how social media is and everything like that. So yeah, I think he definitely has a problem.
Max, you got the floor.
When you say he has a problem, we're talking about Chud, or I'm assuming we're talking about him, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if he has a mental disorder. That tends to be something that tends to be a scapegoat for some situations. And this is where racial stuff tends to happen when it comes to these well, like of a better word, situations. I hate to be repetitive. Look, if he's starting trouble, if he's provoking people, and then he shot this guy, um, then there's no self defense, especially if you have a history of doing that. Because the clip I saw, it showed that he had multiple arrests before, so it's not his first rodeo, going around getting in trouble. Um, like that eventually catches up to you, especially if you have repeated arrests, and then now you walking around with a gun and provoking people, especially people of color, and you're just adding fuel to a fire that doesn't need to be there. Like, I don't know why this dude has any momentum. I have issues with certain guys that I have issues with guys who are just arrogant and they still get spotlight treatment. And I'm just like, I hate that so much. It's so annoying. It's like, God forbid you're a decent dude and you want if you want a platform like that, but it tends to go to people who just act a fool and get away with it. And I know that vengeance belongs to the Lord, but sometimes it's just one of those things that grinds your gears, man. Um, I don't know how that's gonna go down, but if there's enough momentum, he should probably be thrown into the cell for a while. I mean, there's more evidence that points to the fact that he didn't act in self-defense. He provoked somebody. He's walking around with a weapon. First of all, I don't know if that's even if it's legal. It's like, what are you provoking for? And then I know that people are gonna be like, oh well, why did the guy have to act the way he did? I'm just like, forget, like, consider this. Like, I know not everyone's gonna act the same, but like, why do you think off the top of your head that no one's gonna react to you provoking them in an unnecessary manner? Like, there's some people you just don't bother like that in the streets. Like, why are you doing that? Especially if you have a platform like that, um, you gotta be even more mindful of what you're doing. Like, it's not to say that people can do whatever they want, but it's just letting you know, like, we've all existed long enough to know that, like, you got to be careful in the streets. Period. Don't start trouble, because sometimes I learned that from a former pastor that he grew up in the streets. He said, like, I'm like, how do you trust that you'll be safe in, like, when you live in the rough parts of the city? He's like, just don't give them the reason to come at you. Basically, he said that, like, don't give brothers reasons, like, people. I don't know where necessarily this situation happened, but don't provoke people. That there's more evidence against him than not. So he already has a history. He walked around with a weapon. He literally was looking for trouble. Compared to what the guy did, this dude shot him. That's automatic. 10 years minimum, if not more. That's all I got on the matter so far.
Rob, you got it.
Peace, everybody. Yeah, when you look for trouble, you find it. And he had arrest earlier, and that is always the news and the government first defense when they do something like that. They got a mental illness, not buying it. Even if you got a mental illness, I know I work with kids with a mental illness every day. They are some of the kindest people, some of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. They have the best behavior, they're mannered, and they're actually, in a lot of cases, smarter than all of us will ever be. So I wouldn't call that a mental disability. I'd call that stupid. And what it shows is that they're protected. And the only difference now is that they have a camera and they're able to go around and film it. They are highly protected in this community. The president spews out hate every single day. You know what I mean? And he bought out the hoods. Now you don't have to hide no more. They don't have to hide their faces. He bought them out, and they feeling real confident. And the law shows that the assault on people of color is still real. It's 100% official, and it's happening in every state, especially the South. And in this case, where they probably shouldn't have let him go the first 2 times, he should have been banned from any kind of socials or any kind of filming when you're going up to people like that. And it also shows that a lot of times people of color are so compassionate. No matter what assaults, what oppression, what challenges we face, most of the time we are forgiving when it comes to them. We'll do anything to our own kind, but when it comes to them, we leave it in the hands of the Lord and the Bible and this and that. And I'm not promoting violence or whatever, but clearly if you're going around and you're doing this type of stuff and nobody stopped you before, then that's a clear sign of what's going on in today's time in these communities. And you're watching it, and you look at the federal people of color was fired. They've been getting fired. They redistrict the lines around the country. The governor here in Florida signed a new redistricting law, whatever, three hours after the Supreme Court did it. So I don't really know what's going on, but I know we're going backwards fast. And that camera it could either save somebody or it's going to get them hurt, because at the end of the day, you're not going to keep being able to walk up to people like that. There's going to be some people that's going to respond, and you're not going to like it. And at the end of the day, that's not funny. So I don't know how they made him famous or whatever, but walking around like that, I don't even do the pranks like that. You know what I'm saying? The pranks are, there was one guy that was going around calling people boys. Jump, boy, jump. All in Walmart, this and that, jump. You know, I'm from the old era, like, all right, well, if we're going to do this, it's going to be scripted. I'm going to do this, that. Don't get too carried away. It's already scripted. We know what we're going to do. But on a random day, you walk up to the wrong person like that, you're going to get hurt. And at the end of the day, you know what? Again, you looking for trouble, you going to find it.
I hate this culture that we in that celebrates nothing but toxicity. The algorithm has trained people to move towards pain and ego and thrive off of sexuality and being overly misguided and misled under false pretenses that really serve no purpose other than to divide and to leave you in error or discombobulated, because a lot of people, they know and don't have any direction, no sense of self. So you're going to these platforms and you see this body of a person, and they are invoking something inside of you that appeals to your nature or your confusion of what reality is supposed to look like. And now what you have is a multitude of different websites and channels that perpetuate different emotions that kind of amplify what you already feel prior to you even being introduced to it. Like, it's a real dark and demonic system that I don't think people really pay much attention to. Because, all right, you got folks who enjoy wrestling, you got folks who enjoy boxing, you got people who enjoy toes and feet, you got people who enjoy red pill content, you got people who enjoy learning about electricity, and there's something for everybody. And that's not a bad thing. But what is a problem is when we are advocating for behaviors that ultimately get people killed, hurt, or cost you a chunk of your life that could have been invested into something more productive. And Rob, you're right. Sydney, you're right. Max, you're right. I'm not looking at him and saying, oh, he has a mental illness. What I think is he's one of them ignorant people who was raised to look at a certain group of people a certain way. He never unlearned that behavior. He knows there's a market for that online, and he's using it to make money off of it. In another clip that I watched, there was a GoFundMe that was put up to get him the bail, which was set at $1.2 million. He raised the money. He got the money. I don't know if he's out. That was a day ago. So he may be out. I know they were trying to stop it from happening. But it just goes to show you, it's like it's more than just, for me, it's more than about him. It's about men and women like him, because he's not the first person. There's others that do exactly what he's doing, which is why she called it a nuisance type of a trend. I never heard of that term before. But people really thrive off of this, and that's a problem. I don't know why. Rob, I don't understand it. I don't know why people put money in their pockets. Max, I don't know why we support stuff like that, especially when you have creators who speak uplifting affirmations. They pour back in the community. They try to give job opportunities to people. They try to teach you how to do things on your own, build from scratch when you ain't got certain things. It's like it's so much we could be pouring into. Instead, we give our energy to this. Shout outs to SM. I see you in the building. I yield the mic.
First, I just wanted to add on. Initially, I meant like a personality disorder, because those are learned behaviors. When you have a personality disorder, it's because of how the person raised you and taught you to handle your emotions. And people with personality disorders are far more likely to commit crimes. I know, I definitely recognize, I just want to say this, like, I recognize that people with mental disorders don't all, like, they're not all going to turn out to be criminals. There are people with really severe mental disorders that are amazing people, but and then of course the news always likes to scapegoat people with certain disorders as like, oh, they're schizophrenic, they must be a criminal. But I think with his types of behaviors, because typically antagonistic behavior is a sign of either like narcissistic personality disorder or what was the other one? There's another one. I just forgot the name. Oh, antisocial personality disorder. It makes people like really like to dig at people, and they get I wouldn't call it joy, but they get exhilaration from like enticing or inciting people. So that's why I was just saying that for him, because he definitely, like, the behaviors he shows are signs of certain personality disorders. And as I mentioned earlier, that is a learned behavior. So it would make sense, because in a cultural, in a world where, one, we're getting far more divisive, groups are splitting up more and more because of everything that's happening. And so there's like an integrated population is necessary for racism and all of these things to decrease, because when you're separating populations, they don't have any exposure. And so they're just going to be going off stereotypes and what they see on the news. And we all know that the media twists everything. And so I think, one, intolerance is growing as a result of people being separated, and also we're all stressed out, and we all know that whenever people are stressed out, they're going to be more, neurotic or whatever. So you also have that stress. That could very well have been an aspect, like a sense of anxiety inspiring the actions that he does. But like all of you said, I do think this is an indication of the unraveling of the kind of civil society that we supposedly used to have, even though I don't believe the media in that respect. But I definitely think that this is not an isolated incident. We're just not hearing of other people like this because he was filming himself. So he was putting himself out there. So it was going to grab attention. But other people probably do this privately. They probably act in similar ways. And it's a symptom of our system struggling. And also, as I said, separating.
Yeah. I don't know what else to say to all this because you made the point pretty much. Can y'all hear me okay? Yeah, okay. Because in my car I have an AC on. I want to make sure that's not loud. But you know what it is? It goes back to the fact that sinful nature or just anything negative is more, it sells more than positive things do. Like, yeah, there are a lot of positive stuff that works. I mean, if you look at right now, someone made a point. I saw this on Threads, and it had to do with Michael Jackson. And I was like, I think that's true. Like they say, it's hitting hard again that he's not around, especially with the movie coming out, is the fact that you look at, this was reference to music. Now I remember it, that he was like really the last real artist that spoke on things that mattered. Everyone nowadays does not talk about anything of substance, and it's very few that do. And if they do, they get thrown out easily. A lot of evil agendas are thriving more than they need to. This guy is an example of that. It's like also how people say, sex sells. And the thing is that it like anything else, it loses its value. People become desensitized to things the more you saturate the market with these things. So when you think about like what people find amusing, sometimes it's a desensitizing thing. Like there's some things that we probably shouldn't find funny, but because we got so used to something, or because you know it's a learned behavior that you got to like unlearn. Like it goes back to sin existing in our lives, and everyone knows what that is. That like it's anything bad, even if it's small. So that existing sometimes could lead to like, oh, you find certain things that are crude funny, like the pranks this guy was talking about, or like what this guy's been doing, walking around with a camera, seeing what reactions you get from people. It's one thing if you're doing like interesting pranks that are like, like the James Brown one where people, I mean, it's in their homes, but like people hide the speaker, and when a person opens the cabinet, they turn the music on. They're like, yeah, they hear that and they flip out, and something falls, and it's funny like that. But when when something like looking for trouble, the idea of it's the anticipation of what's going to happen that makes it amusing to people. And that's the part that doesn't get screened because you're allowing people to thrive in an area that doesn't need thriving. You're continuing the problem. Like, there's a reason why a lot of people are kind of like trying to go backwards in a good way. For example, it's a small example, but like, there's some people who are like, they don't like to use the iPhone anymore. Some people are buying flip phones again. Young people were on the news for saying this is something that's positive, but I can see why, that they rather spend spend money on bulks of DVDs of shows or movies because streaming is annoying, because streaming makes it harder, and then if the movie's not there, you're paying for something that you probably not even using unless it's something that you want to see. And because it's unlimited streaming, they're gonna make anything and everything. A DVD, you have it, you can watch it whenever, and it has content that probably wouldn't have been aired. You watch the original. If you watch Friends on the DVD, there are a lot of jokes on the DVD that were never aired. You'd be surprised how many jokes were cut out just because of time restraint. So my point being that there has to be a recognition of the fact that anything bad is being seen as good now, and anything good is seen as bad now, and that's actually biblical. That's actually part of what Christ spoke about things looking like at this point in time. Like, this is a sign of the age ending. So if anyone who thinks of the end of the world, the Bible talks about this is a sign of that time coming. Because why is this fun to people? There was a time where, like, what got David Chappelle said that what got the civil rights movement moving was the fact that Emmett Till, the photo that was released of his face after what happened, is what started the thinking of what is really happening here. Because it's one thing to hear it, it's another thing to see it. But when that's all you see, when all you see is something, you get used to it. Look what's happening since 9/11 to us. A lot of us are like low-key traumatized because we saw something at age 7 that we shouldn't be seeing. I know it was long-winded,
Hey, I'm gonna double back. I studied history, African history of people of color first. We already know there was colored people here all around the world doing businesses. There was doctors and lawyers. There wasn't just slaves. It was virtually impossible to bring all those people over here. They came over here and did that, took them, and then they shipped a lot of the slaves off from here. And I said that to say I studied Black history for so long, for about 20 years straight, to where I had to stop because I didn't learn how, I couldn't process no more. And I was angry 24/7. So when I want to say these points, I have wrote them down. When you look at the Bible, a lot of this is sanctioned in the Bible. And whether or not you should follow it or not, we know that the Bible was used to mentally program people to be okay with being suppressed and oppressed. And we know also in the Bible that anybody that went against it was called a heathen. And a lot of times in the Bible, they was ordered to death, sent to their death for opposing it. And we know that in this country specifically, many days in many cities around the country, after church, they would go hang people on the town square. The same people that just finished reading the Bible. We know that when Black people would go, they had to wear gloves in the church so that they didn't touch the same furniture. They had to sit upstairs. And then also, if anybody was teaching something different from the Bible, especially as far as literacy, a lot of times they were killed and hung. We also know that this is nothing new. When you look at Andrew Zimmerman, he did not get locked up for killing Trayvon Martin. And my whole thing with that was, okay, first you killed the child, so how could you feel unprotected? Second, you hear the dispatch saying, do not follow, do not follow, do not stay in pursuit. He should have got charged for breaking the law for that. That was first things first. He should have got charged. Chef, shout out CM too. Chef was just talking about the guy who got heckled in Europe. All he did was got kicked out. When you look at Jesse Owens, the Olympic runner, he ran all of those, got all of those gold medals, beat Hitler for them, this and that, beat the Germans, whoopty-whoop. When he came back to get his awards, he was not allowed to go around the front of the theater to go inside. I can name case after case after case after case to where this stuff is normal to a certain extent, to where if we're looking at a mental illness, then he should